So in part one, I already talked to you about my strategy, which was concept maps, so I've already explained all that. And I actually gave you a lesson, kind of, that I would give to my students. But now I'm going to give a lesson really to you so I can teach you about thinking maps, or concept maps. And I could do this same thing for my students. This isn't, is that, yeah, hold on. It's been a long summer. So this isn't exactly the way I taught my students. You know, I introduced different thinking maps during different units that were really applicable. But for you, for no extra charge, I'm just going to teach you about thinking maps. So the way, because I've already described them to you in the other video, we're not going to do that now. And you have the handout, right? Okay, so I'm going to do this in two ways. I'm not going to use science for this. I'm going to pick a rose, a flower. And the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to use that rose, that iconic image that we're all familiar with, not some, science concept that you may know nothing about, like leishmaniasis, for example. So we're going to take a rose, and first we're going to run through all the concept maps, or the different thinking maps, and show you, using that one kind of iconic topic, a rose, how they work, briefly. Then next, I'm going to go, part two, I'm going to go through each of these different thinking maps and tell you more about it and give you some examples. Okay, do you have any questions? And if this was really my class, I say that a lot. I also say you will succeed and there are no wrong answers. Then when they get wrong answers on the test, they're like, you said there were no wrong answers. Okay, so let's take a rose. So the first round, I'm just going to show you. I'm going to demonstrate. I'm not necessarily going to tell you what they are. So we're going to take a red rose. So let's draw a circle and another circle. And we're going to write red rose. I have really bad handwriting, and if this was a class, I'd probably write that in red. Or I might actually draw a red rose, because I draw better than I write. So this is our target, red rose. So what do we throw out? What do you know about red roses? What can you tell me about red roses? Flowers. They're beautiful. What? Yeah, they smell good. They smell good. I love the smell of roses. Oh, they're thorny. Remember, these are 8th graders, so you have to really enunciate thorny, or there will be problems. Yeah, you buy them. They often come in a dozen, although I tried to get a dozen for my wife for Valentine's Day. I ended up getting her one, because they were insanely expensive that day. They have stems, right? You can get long stem roses. They have leaves. Oh God. Leaf. It is a plant. They're beautiful. Okay. So this is one type of thinking map. And when I'm done, I'm going to actually talk about it. So we pick a target and we throw out everything we know about that target. And we could actually add another layer. And we could draw a square around it, and then in this layer we could say, where did we learn all that? So for example, when I do thinking map with my students, let's just say I had written bacteria, and they had thrown out everything they know about bacteria, then here is the context. Where did they learn it? And they might say their textbook, Mr. V, life experience, and so forth. Okay, let's do another type. Did you guys like this one? This is a great one. It's really easy for students to get this one, easy for you to get it, and it works really well. Let's do another one. Let's see. Okay, here's another one. Let's say we're going to describe the qualities of a particular red rose. So we've got our red rose. I'm going to do RR because of my bad writing. So qualities. Well, the qualities of a red rose. It's red. You could say it's prickly, it has thorns, It's beautiful. So you could see if I could actually write neatly, you could read this. It's soft, long-stemmed. So that's specifically focused on the qualities. Before we threw out everything we knew about red roses. Now we're focusing on the qualities of a red rose. Red, prickly, it's got thorns, it's beautiful, it's soft, it has long stemmed. So you could easily apply this to your own classroom. Let's take it down the road. Okay, now, how about what are the similarities and differences between a red rose and an iris? So now we're going to do compare and contrast. Yep. Okay, so we need to start with, this gets a little trickier. We need to start with the red rose over here and the iris over here. Okay, so here we're going to have, what do they have in common? And here, what do they have different? So, well, a red rose is red, right? An iris isn't. An iris is purple. Okay, that's different. They're both soft. Of course, if this was my classroom, I would be eliciting this from you, right? But you're not really there, so it's hard to elicit from you. Where were we? Irises are really tall. And roses are thorny or prickly. So irises aren't thorny or prickly. Roses aren't necessarily really tall. But they both have green stems. And they're both beautiful. So these are some of the things they have in common. They have green stems, they're soft, they're beautiful. And these are the things they don't have in common. They're red, and they're prickly, or thorny. Irises are purple, and they're tall. So just that's amazing. You can show kids in an instant, in a minute, in a few minutes, in a short period of time, how to use this great thinking map to compare and contrast. It's amazing. It works, really well in science. I mean, it would work well with anything. Let's do another one. Okay. Okay, how about we use a tree map for classification? That works well. So, what's our main category? Plants. Okay. Well, there's edible plants, and there are ornamental plants. Okay, so our category is plants. We've got edible plants, we've got ornamental plants. Let's see. Yep. So edible plants, we've got lettuce, tomatoes, etc. And ornamental plants, we've got a rose, an iris, etc. Another amazing thinking map that you can use for class. I do this a lot in my science class. I'll let them classify things. And you get students to come up here and do this because they have neater handwriting. And then they can all help each other. It's great. And then of course they do it. You give them handouts. They do it at their desk, individually, in pairs, in groups. They're amazing. Okay, let's do one more, just for fun. This is a great one. Okay, so we're going to do a brace map for the parts of a rose. And this also works well in science. So what are the parts of a rose? Well, you have a rose bush, and then you have a flower. And of course, these can get as detailed as you would like them to get. You have the stem, and you have the root system. So these are great for teaching, I teach ecology and things like that. And then the root system, you have rootlets, root hairs, and actually you also have mycorrhizae, bacteria, fungi. Okay, so once again, we used a brace map to show subparts. Amazing, isn't it? Let's see, want to do one more? Okay. Do a flow chart, just for fun. So what if we say, how would you go about giving a rose to somebody? And this is the sort of things kids love in class when you ask them questions like this. It would be great to do on Valentine's. So, you know, like, Gage, let's say you wanted to give a rose to Amy. How would you go about doing that? You have to know your students really well to pull this. Okay, so, first of all, you have to have an idea to give her a rose, right? Which you probably already did. And then what do? Well, of course you're eliciting this from the kids, right? You could go to the florist. Not in this town, so you probably have to go pick a rose somewhere. And then when you get to the florist, or when you get to your neighbor's backyard, or to the roadside, you have to select a rose that you think is just right for her, right? Right, because you want to impress her. And then what would you do? You buy the rose, put it in water, keep it safe. You bring it to school and you hide it from all your friends because you're really embarrassed. Then you wait till she's alone, you hand her the rose and you say, Amy, I love you. And then if you're lucky, kiss her. I don't know. We won't go there. Okay, so there's another example. And I think that's good for now. So let me jump real quick. So we talked about this, the first, let's back up. First one we did was a circle map. Great for reflective thinking. Then we did bubble maps. Sorry, I know this is lame. Bubble maps, which are great for, sorry, I'm not going to waste any more time with this. Bubble maps, cause and effect. What's that map called? Double bubble map, of course it is. Double bubble map, and then a tree map. And then we use a brace map. And then finally we use a flow chart, and that is called a flow map. Okay, if you have any questions, feel free to email me or ask me right now. Thank you. Oh, your exit ticket is you have to write one thing that you learned today in class and 2 big questions that you leave class with. And tomorrow morning you come and discuss that with your shoulder partner.